What if the person who changed your life forever was someone you paid to pretend to love you? Rain pours down outside a wooden boathouse on a luxury lakeside resort. Inside, two soaked figures stand face to face, illuminated only by flashes of lightning. Liam Matthew, Chicago's most formidable CEO, locks eyes with Olivia Reyes, a talented artist who once called a park tent home. In this moment, everything between them shifts. "I never expected to feel anything real," his voice barely audible above the storm. One desperate CEO, one homeless artist, a fake relationship that was never supposed to feel real. 3 days earlier, Liam Matthew stood in his penthouse overlooking Chicago's glittering skyline. His brother's wedding loomed, along with his mother's relentless matchmaking, and an ex who threatened his carefully constructed peace. His solution: $5,000 for a woman to pose as his girlfriend for one weekend. For Olivia, sleeping on a cot in her friend's garage after being evicted, the offer meant survival. Just another role to play she'd perfected pretending throughout her life. This was merely a business transaction, nothing more. "I'll be whatever you need me to be," she promised him, for 3 days only. But what happened that stormy night would shatter all their carefully constructed walls? From penthouse to park bench, billion-dollar deals to desperate survival, two worlds that were never meant to collide found themselves on a collision course. When the masks fell away, what remained shocked them both. If you've ever wondered if genuine connection can emerge from the most unlikely circumstances, you're about to discover an extraordinary story that will change how you see relationships forever. Hit that subscribe button now if you believe in unexpected love. Liam Matthew stands motionless at the floor-to-ceiling windows of his Chicago penthouse, city lights reflecting off his Patek Philippe watch, a $50,000 gift to himself after closing the Henderson deal. The timepiece represents everything he values: precision, excellence, and strategic investment. His silhouette cuts a perfect figure against the skyline he partially owns. "Mr. Matthew." His executive assistant's voice interrupts through the intercom. "Your 4 p.m. cancelled. Should I move up tomorrow's board meeting?" Liam barely acknowledges her. His mind is elsewhere, on the imminent disaster waiting at his brother's wedding this weekend. At 35, he has everything most people spend lifetimes chasing. Matthew Industries occupies the top floors of a gleaming downtown tower. His net worth exceeds 8 figures, and business publications regularly feature him as one of the Midwest's most formidable minds. Yet success tastes hollow tonight. His phone buzzes. Another text from Sandra, his mother. "Darling, I've seated you next to Charlotte Wilson's daughter at the rehearsal dinner. Harvard Law, impeccable family, perfect for you." Liam tosses the phone onto his Italian leather sofa. Sandra Matthew has spent 3 decades pretending their family fortune predates the Chicago fire, when in reality, Liam's father built everything from nothing. Now, with Thomas marrying a kindergarten teacher Sandra considers beneath their standing, her matchmaking efforts have intensified to obsession. Worse still, his former girlfriend will attend, the woman who betrayed him with an investor last year. Her calculated smiles and strategic positioning in their social circle make the thought of facing her unbearable. "There must be a solution," he mutters, fingers tapping against the glass. The idea comes from an article about tech executives in Silicon Valley. Some hire professional companions for events, not for inappropriate reasons, but to project a certain image. A weekend arrangement with clear boundaries. A business transaction. Within hours, his ever-efficient assistant presents a solution: someone with no connections to their world, someone who needs money badly enough to agree to a weekend of pretense. When Liam authorizes the plan, he expects someone calculating, someone hungry for opportunity and connections. But the woman who walked through his door was nothing like he expected. Life taught Olivia Reyes its harshest lessons early. Growing up in Chicago's South Side, her childhood memories were fragmented between her mother's good days, when Maria Reyes would sketch beautiful drawings with her daughter, and the bad ones, when substances consumed whatever money they had for rent or food. Draw yourself somewhere beautiful, her mother would say during lucid moments. Art can take you anywhere. By age 12, those words became Liv's only inheritance as her mother's addiction worsened. The apartment they called home, a one-bedroom, walk-up with unreliable heat, vanished after their third eviction. At 14, Liv entered Chicago's overcrowded foster care system, bouncing between placements where she was either completely ignored or noticed in ways that made her skin crawl. You learn to assess danger quickly, Liv would later explain. Which homes had locked refrigerators? Which foster fathers looked at you too long? Which caseworkers actually remembered your name? At 16, Liv made a devastating calculation. The streets might be safer than her current placement. She wasn't alone. Each year, thousands of foster youth make this same brutal choice. For 8 weeks, Liv lived in a hidden corner of Douglas Park, her few possessions secured in a backpack she never let out of sight. Her blue tent, purchased with hoarded lunch money, became her entire world. She learned which public bathrooms were safest to wash in before dawn, which library branches had the most lenient staff about loitering, and which restaurant dumpsters contained still packaged food that wouldn't make her sick. The hardest part wasn't hunger, she once told a shelter counselor. It was feeling invisible. People literally look through you. Her breakthrough came when a community outreach worker named Alicia found her warming herself in a 24-hour laundromat. Unlike others, Alicia approached with respect rather than pity, connecting Liv with emergency youth housing and helping her re-enroll in school. Liv's artistic talent flourished, despite everything. Her digital illustrations, often depicting ordinary people with extraordinary inner light, caught the attention of a community college art instructor who helped her secure a partial scholarship. By 28, she'd built a modest freelance illustration business alongside her barista job at an upscale coffee shop. Then came the perfect storm. A 40% rent increase coincided with a client vanishing without paying for a major project. Once again, Liv found herself without stable housing, her drawing tablet and clothes packed into a duffel bag, sleeping on a folding cot in her friend Rosa's unheated garage studio. My cousin works for this super-rich CEO, Rosa mentioned one morning, watching Liv sketch despite the cold. He needs a date for his brother's wedding. A fake date. Just someone to keep his family away for a few days. He'll pay $5,000. $5,000. The sum echoed in Liv's mind as she rode the elevator to meet Lion Matthew. That amount meant 3 months' rent and a security deposit. It meant time to rebuild, all for pretending to be someone she wasn't, a skill she'd mastered long ago. Have you or someone you know ever faced seemingly impossible circumstances? Comment below with how you overcame your biggest challenge. Your story might inspire someone who needs it today. Please call me Liam, he says after a moment of awkward silence, gesturing toward an expansive seating area where Chicago's Chicayan frames their meeting like a living painting. The tension between them is palpable, him in his Tom Ford suit, her in a simple blue dress that's seen better days. Two worlds, separated by wealth and circumstance, now forced into an unlikely negotiation. I need someone who can convincingly play the role of the woman who's gotten me past my ex. Liam explains, his tone businesslike. For 3 days only. Liv meets his gaze directly. Before I agree to anything, I need to be clear about boundaries. This is strictly professional. I'm not expected to entertain you privately. His expression hardens. I'm not in the habit of paying for those services, Ms. Reyes. You'll have your own room. I expect convincing public displays of affection, hand-holding, occasional kisses if needed. Nothing more. And the payment? Liv asks, hating how the question makes her feel but knowing she can't afford misunderstandings. Half now, half when we return Sunday, plus expenses, clothing, accessories. Those aren't deducted from your fee. They shake hands, a contract sealed without paper. The next morning, Danielle arrives at Rosa's garage with a black credit card and military precision. We have 5 hours, she announces, hair, makeup, wardrobe, and a crash course in Matthew family dynamics. In a private Gold Coast salon, Liv transforms. Her hair falls in soft waves, her nails perfectly manicured, a new wardrobe carefully selected to look expensive yet understated. "One last thing," Daniela says, presenting a velvet box containing a delicate silver necklace with a small diamond pendant. "Liam wanted you to have this for the weekend." Liv hesitates. "It's just for the weekend," Daniela clarifies. "Part of the costume." As Liv settles into the luxury sedan bound for Michigan, Liam receives a photo of her transformation. He studies it longer than necessary, surprised by the thought forming in his mind she might actually be convincing. Perhaps too convincing. The Grand Lakeview Resort rises from the shores of Lake Michigan like a vision from another era, its sprawling grounds meticulously landscaped to frame perfect views of the water. Liv steps from the car, momentarily frozen by the grandeur that some consider normal weekend accommodation. "Ms. Braze," a uniformed concierge approaches. "Mr. Matthew asked that you be shown directly to your suite. He's finishing a call but will join you shortly." The suite unfolds before her, larger than any apartment she's ever lived in, with a sitting room, enormous bedroom, and private balcony overlooking endless blue water. She's still absorbing the view when Liam arrives. "You made it," he says, his eyes taking in her transformation. "You look perfect." They spend an hour on the balcony, aligning their fabricated romance. His research into her actual work impresses her. He's memorized pieces from her website, constructed a plausible timeline for their courtship. "You're very committed to authenticity," Liv observes. "I don't do anything halfway," he replies simply. "Especially when my mother will be cross-examining you like a hostile witness." Sandra Matthew proves exactly as advertised when they arrive at the welcome dinner. The elegant woman in her 60s barely waits for introductions. "Olivia," she says, voice warm, while her eyes remain coolly evaluative, "Liam has been so mysterious about you. I was beginning to think he was keeping you locked in a tower somewhere." "More like respecting my privacy, Sandra," Liam replies smoothly, his hand finding the small of Liv's back in a gesture that somehow manages to seem both possessive and supportive. "I've been busy with several major projects," Liv adds confidently. "Liam understands how important my work is to me." Something flickers in Sandra's eyes, surprise, perhaps, but before she can respond, another voice cuts through. "Liam, I thought that was you." His ex-girlfriend appears, tall and willowy, in a designer dress. Her smile dazzles but doesn't reach her eyes as she assesses Liv. "And you must be the mysterious girlfriend we've been hearing about," she says, extending a perfectly manicured man. "Liam and I are old friends." Throughout the evening, they navigate introductions and probing questions with surprising ease. When asked about her background, Liv shares edited truths: her work as an illustrator, her education, favorite Chicago neighborhoods, while skillfully avoiding mentions of her childhood or family. Liam stays close, his hand occasionally finding hers, his posture angled toward her, creating an illusion of intimacy that feels increasingly authentic. When his ex attempts to monopolize his attention, Liv rescues him with a perfectly timed inside joke they've never actually shared, but both somehow understand. "You're good at this," he whispers as they walk to breakfast the next morning. "So are you," she replies, surprised by how natural it feels to walk beside him, how her hand fits in his without awkwardness. Their curiosity about each other grows with each passing hour, his about her resilience, hers about the man behind the wealth. The questions they dare not ask multiply in the spaces between their performances. But as dark clouds gathered over the lake that evening, everything between them was about to change. The rehearsal dinner sparkles with wealth and pretense. String lights cast golden reflections across champagne glasses as a jazz quartet plays softly. Beneath the polished surface, tension builds. Liam returns from the dance floor, his jaw tight. "She knows," he says under his breath as he guides Liv to a quiet corner. "Who knows what?" Liv asks, though she already suspects. "Natalie claims our relationship is fake," She's threatening to tell everyone unless I meet her privately tonight. His fingers tap against his glass. She's angry I've moved on, or appear to have moved on. Before Liv can respond, a low rumble of thunder interrupts the evening. Within minutes, fat raindrops begin pelting the tense canvas roof. What starts as gentle rainfall quickly transforms into a downpour. Wedding guests scatter toward the main building as wind tears at decorations. Liam grabs Liv's hand. This way, pulling her not toward the resort but toward a small wooden structure near the water's edge. They burst through the boathouse door laughing, both soaked completely. Inside is simple but well maintained, with canoes on racks and a small sitting area. Well, that's one way to escape Natalie's threats, Liv says, wringing water from her hair. Liam's laugh holds genuine amusement, a sound Liv realizes she hasn't heard before. Remind me to thank the weather. He shrugs off his wet jacket, suddenly looking younger, less like the calculating CEO she first met. Here, he says, finding towels in a cabinet. Sorry about your dress. Liv looks down at the designer garment now clinging to her body. It's just fabric. It'll dry. You're not what I expected, Liam says quietly. What did you expect? Someone calculating. Someone who would see this weekend as a networking opportunity. He sits on a wooden bench. Instead, you've been completely professional. Authentic, even ironic, given that this entire relationship is fabricated. Something in the rain drumming on the roof, the isolation, creates unexpected honesty between them. What did you mean earlier about valuing security? He asks. Liv hesitates, then decides truth feels right in this moment. I was homeless for part of my teenage years. After my mother's addiction led to our eviction, I spent time in foster care, but it wasn't always safe. So sometimes the streets seemed better. She tells him about the tent in Douglas Park, washing in public restrooms, the constant vigilance when you have nowhere secure to sleep. She explains about community outreach workers who helped her find stability, about working multiple jobs for community college, about building her illustration business one client at a time. The night before we met, I slept on a cot in my friend's garage, she concludes. So when I say I value stability, it's not theoretical. Liam listens without interruption, his expression shifting from surprise to respect. Your turn, she says after a pause. Why is a man who could have anyone so desperate to avoid his mother's matchmaking? He leans back, facade entirely gone. The simplified version. I watched my father work himself to death trying to meet my mother's social ambitions. Nothing was ever enough. More money, more connections, more status. A game with no end. A crack of thunder shakes the boathouse. The lights flicker and go out completely, plunging them into darkness. In the dim blue glow of his phone screen, their eyes meet and hold. Something shifts, the boundaries of their arrangement blurring in the darkness, the sound of rain creating a cocoon around them. This isn't part of our agreement, he murmurs, his hand touching her face with unexpected gentleness. No, she agrees, but instead of pulling away, she leans into his touch. It's not. Their kiss holds none of the calculated performance of their public displays. This is questioning, then insistent, then hungry with need neither anticipated. Do you believe one unexpected moment can completely change how we see someone? Has a connection ever caught you by surprise? Share your experience in the comments below. Daylight filters through the boathouse windows, illuminating two people whose relationship has fundamentally changed. Liam watches Liv gather her hair into a ponytail, the intimacy of the previous night hanging between them. This complicates things, he says finally, straightening his still damp shirt. Understatement, she replies, aiming for lightness despite the heaviness settling in her chest. But we're both adults. We can finish the weekend as planned and then. She doesn't finish the sentence. They both understand the ending. Then they return to separate worlds. His of penthouse views and corporate acquisitions, hers of freelance hustle and financial insecurity. For the remainder of the wedding, they perform their roles flawlessly, perhaps even more convincingly now that genuine connection exists beneath the surface. They dance at Thomas and Rebecca's reception, charm family members, and effectively neutralize both Sandra's matchmaking and his ex-girlfriend's attempts at disruption. No one suspects the shift that occurred between them. No one notices how their eyes linger a moment too long, how their hands seek each other with new purpose. By Sunday afternoon, as wedding festivities conclude and guests depart, neither is ready for their arrangement to end. Yet neither finds words to express this unexpected truth. "Where should the driver drop you?" Liam asks as they cross into Chicago city limits. "Wicker Park," Liv replies. "My friend's place." When the car pulls up outside a modest apartment building, Liv gathers her things with quiet efficiency. "Well," she says, "I believe this concludes our arrangement. Your family was lovely." Liam begins, then stops, unaccustomed to uncertainty. She waits, something flickering behind her composed expression, but when he doesn't continue, she nods once. "Thank you for the opportunity, Liam. It was an interesting experience." Before he can find the right words, she's gone, walking toward the building entrance without looking back. The next morning, Liam arranges the final payment with an additional bonus for her exceptional performance. He throws himself into work with greater intensity than usual, scheduling back-to-back meetings and focusing on the Henderson development temporarily neglected during the wedding weekend. But his legendary focus wavers. He finds himself staring out his office windows toward Wicker Park. During crucial calls, he misses key points, distracted by memories of rain on a boathouse roof. Meanwhile, Liv secures a small studio apartment, pays 3 months' rent in advance, and rebuilds her client list. She tells herself the hollowness she feels is simply exhaustion from the performance. Neither admits they're looking for the other in every crowded street. By Wednesday, Liam has looked up her professional website 3 times, studying her portfolio pieces. By Thursday, he's drafted and deleted 7 different emails, none striking the right tone. By Friday, even Daniela notices his distraction. "Is everything all right, Mr. Matthew?" she asks after he requests the same report twice. "Fine," he replies curtly. "Just schedule a meeting with the marketing team. I want to discuss commissioning some new illustration work for the Lakeshore project." Daniela's expression remains professionally neutral, though something knowing flickers in her eyes. "Any particular illustrator you had in mind?" "Reach out to Olivia Rise," he says, attempting to sound casual. "Her style would work well for what I'm envisioning." When Liv doesn't respond to the commission inquiry, Liam takes more direct action. He appears one afternoon at work coffee, standing in line in his perfectly tailored suit among the neighborhood's casual clientele. "What are you doing here?" she asks when he reaches the counter, voice low to avoid attracting coworker attention. Ordering coffee, he replies with maddening calm, "Americano, please." As she hands over the cup, their fingers brush briefly. "You didn't respond to the commission inquiry," he says. "I didn't think it was a good idea," she replies honestly, mixing business with whatever happened that weekend. "Have dinner with me," he says directly, not as part of any arrangement, just dinner. Liv stares at him. "Why?" "Because I haven't been able to stop thinking about you," he admits, the words clearly difficult. "About our conversations, about the night in the boathouse." She declines, citing her need for stability. 3 days later, a package arrives at her new apartment, a professional-grade digital drawing tablet with a note, "No strings attached. Just supporting local artists. A." A week after that, she learns her illustration has been selected for a prominent design magazine's showcase. Only later does she discover Matthew Industries sponsored the issue. "This is bordering on stalking," she tells him bluntly when he appears at her workplace again. "It's networking," he corrects, looking unreasonably attractive in casual clothes, dark jeans and a grey Henley, that make him seem almost like a normal person. "Supporting the arts community." "You don't care about the arts community?" "I care about you," he says, the simple statement hanging between them. Against her better judgment, Liv agrees to meet him, just for coffee, not dinner, on her next day off. One coffee leads to a lakefront walk, which becomes dinner the following week, which somehow becomes a regular occurrence despite her initial reservations. What Liam was about to realize would change the trajectory of his entire life. 3 months after the wedding weekend, Liam reviews quarterly projections in his office, while his CFO presents impressive numbers about the Henderson development. But Liam's mind wanders to his evening plans, celebrating Liv's biggest illustration commission to date at her favorite neighborhood restaurant. "Is there something else you need, Arthur?" Liam asks, noticing his CFO lingering after the presentation. The older man hesitates. "Just the board has noticed you're less available lately. There are questions about whether your focus has shifted." "My focus is fine. The company is performing better than ever." Of course, Arthur backpedals. "It's just that there's been talk about the woman you've been seeing. Someone mentioned she's not from our usual circles." The temperature in the room seems to drop. "My personal life is not a board concern," Liam says coldly. "Unless you'd like to explain how my relationship affects our profit margins." That evening, as they celebrate Liv's successful project over Pella and Sangria, Liam makes a decision. He reaches into his jacket and withdraws a small envelope. "I have something for you," he says. "Consider it a celebration of your project." Liv opens it warily, finding a key card with Matthew Industries logo. "Liam. It's access to a studio space on the 15th floor of my building. Natural light, storage for supplies, digital equipment, everything you mentioned wanting in a workspace." Her expression clouds. "You know how I feel about." "It's not a gift," he interrupts. "Matthew Industries is establishing an artist-in-residence program. You'd be the first participant. Proper contract, appropriate compensation, complete creative freedom. The only requirement is that you create a piece for the building lobby at the end of the year-long residency." "You created an entire program just to give me a studio?" she asks incredulously. "I created a program because it's good business," Liam counters, though his flushed cheeks betray him. "The fact that you're qualified is serendipitous." The following week, Liv signs the artist-in-residence contract and begins transforming the sterile office space. Liam respects her need to make it her own, staying away until she invites him to see it. When he finally visits, the formerly cold corporate space has become alive with canvases, digital prints pinned to boards, and works in progress on easels. The windows that once framed views meant to impress clients now bathe creative work in natural light. "What do you think?" Liv asks, gesturing to the organized creative chaos. "It's perfect," Liam replies honestly. "It feels like you." "I never imagined having a space like this," she admits, looking around with lingering disbelief. "When I lived in that tent in Douglas Park, just finding enough dry space to keep my sketchbook safe seemed impossible." Liam watches her move around the studio, completely in her element despite the unfamiliar surroundings. In that moment, he realizes with startling clarity that he wants to give her everything, not because she needs his resources, but because her joy has somehow become essential to his own. "I love you," he says, the words emerging without premeditation. Liv turns, surprised by the sudden declaration. For a breathless moment, she simply looks at him, her expression unreadable. Then slowly, a smile spreads across her face, not the careful, measured smile she perfected for his family at the wedding, but something genuine and wonderstruck. "I love you too," she replies, those simple words creating a profound shift in Liam's understanding of what truly matters. If this story touched your heart, make sure you subscribe right now and hit that notification bell. Stories like these remind us that extraordinary connections can happen in the most unexpected ways. Like this video if you believe everyone deserves a love that sees beyond circumstances. Later that evening, as they sit on the balcony of Liam's penthouse sharing a bottle of wine, the Chicago skyline glitters around them, the same view that witnessed their first awkward meeting. "How did we get here?" Liv asks softly. "From that business arrangement to this?" Their journey defied conventional wisdom. A self-made CEO and a woman who once called a park tent home, two lives that should never have intersected in a world divided by wealth and status. Yet something profound had occurred. Liam discovered that success without meaningful connection left an emptiness no acquisition could fill. Through Liv's eyes, he saw beyond balance sheets to the human impact of his work. For Liv, accepting Liam's love required courage, the risk of vulnerability after a lifetime of self-protection. She taught him about resilience. He showed her that accepting support didn't mean surrendering independence. The greatest transformation wasn't in their circumstances, but in their perspectives. They learned to see each other and themselves beyond the labels society assigned them. Their story reveals a beautiful truth. Authentic connection can emerge from unlikely beginnings when we dare to look beyond surfaces to recognize the person underneath. Sometimes the most extraordinary stories begin with a business arrangement and end with changed hearts.